Հայտարարություն Պահը հասունանում է Նիկոլ Փաշինյանի և Վլադիմիր Պուտինի
Statement. The moment is ripening. The joint statement that Nikol Pashinyan and Vladimir Putin issued on April 19, 2022, was another step to prolong the life of the dying Russian Empire at the expense of the vital interests of Armenia. The joint statement was a continuation of and reaffirmed the following. First, the course of capitulation that was imposed on Armenia through the statements of November 9, 2020, January 11, 2021, and November 26, 2021. Second, the treacherous policy of leaving hanging in the air the hand extended by the West, which has strategic interests coinciding with Armenia, and instead of moving towards the West, the policy of remaining the captive of the Russian-Turkish-Azerbaijani alliance that is leading Armenians to doom. Third, Armenia's positioning as a puppet and accomplice of Putin's regime, which is already labeled as a perpetrator of genocide by the civilized world and is doomed to international isolation. Meanwhile, the Armenian people have not given Nikol Pashinyan the mandate to destroy the state and support the perpetrator of genocide. The Armenian people have been and still are loyal to their sovereignty and universal values. Therefore, the West has an ally, as represented by the Armenian people, and the ally anticipates the active support of the West. Accordingly, what is becoming more and more pressing every day is the objective to relieve the country of the regime of Nikol Pashinyan, which is acting in accordance with the instructions of the Kremlin, and the fake opposition of Nikol Pashinyan, as well as to form a provisional and transitional government. The National Democratic Alliance calls on being ready to come out to the square soon and calls on struggling to liberate Armenia. The moment is ripening, and the moment is near. Council of the National Democratic Alliance, 20th of April 2022, Yerevan. We can actually record the fact that the weather vane policy that Nikol Pashinyan had been leading for the past few years continues, and it continues in much more dangerous conditions. Today, we can record the fact that after the apréciation of Artsakh, now Armenia faces the issue of apréciation. And this policy of renouncing sovereignty poses a risk of apréciation. Look, in the recent statement concluded in Moscow, there are points according to which Armenia clearly renounces its sovereignty in the sense of leading a foreign policy. That is to say, why should Armenia combine its activities in the United Nations? There can be conflicting interests, right? Recently, we noticed that during votes, Armenia was leading a policy that seemed to be a policy of neutrality. We can actually record the fact that this is a step back from a policy that seems to be a policy of neutrality to complicity. That is to say, positioning to support the perpetrator of war crimes. And in such conditions, when there are such big risks, when the 9th wave of sanctions has not reached Russia yet, and it will eventually reach Armenia as well, for some reason, Armenia is expressing commitment to bypass or take a transit route along with Russia in order to not participate in the implementation of the policy of imposing sanctions against Russia. And finally, through these actions, Armenia does not support the will and desire of the West to crack through the Russian-Turkish tongues in any way. We are actually renouncing step by step the opportunity that the war in Ukraine created in regard to the complicated issue of the Russian-Turkish tongues, in the sense of cracking through the tongues. The Armenian people are actually facing the issue of relieving themselves of this regime and its fake opposition, and the issue of forming a provisional government. That's all.
Ընդդիմությունից ազատվելու խնդիրը եւ ժամանակավոր կառավարություն կազմելու խնդիրը։ Այսքանը։
Բաժանորդագրվեք ազգային ժողովրդավարական բևեռի YouTube-յան ալիքին։